Pour yourself a cold one.
Let's strike 'em, huh?
And listen to Ross Tucker break down the top college prospects on another tasty edition of The College Draft.
Yeah, it's Daddy Soda time here on the College Draft Podcast, presented, of course, by DraftKings. I'm Ross Tucker, former NFL offensive lineman, 5 teams, 7 years, classic journeyman. Recording today's show this morning from Green Bay, Wisconsin, where I will be on the call tonight with Kevin Harlan for the Packers hosting the Rams. And it is freezing here, and it's supposed to snow during the game, so that should be epic. Very different conditions, I'm assuming, at the Myrtle Beach Bowl between UConn and Marshall that will be taking place later on today. The star of this show is Emory Hunt. Love Emory Hunt. Love following at FBall Game Plan on Twitter. Football Game Plan on YouTube is a must subscribe. And then speaking of subscribing, you just got to order footballgameplan.com/2023 draft guide. Have to do it. Need to get the draft guide. I mean, draft season's basically here. Emory's already going to like all-star games. We've got bowl games, guys opting out, guys staying in. I mean, there's a lot to get to over the course of the next few weeks. Really, we are, January, February, March, April. I mean, we're like 5 months away from the NFL draft, which will be here before you know it. I'm at Ross Tucker NFL on social media, and we are at Ross Tucker Pod. Emory, before we get to some of the bowl games that I want to get to with you, I did want to start 2 thoughts. One is, we spend a lot of time talking about these guys as prospects. Then they become NFL players. And, we don't spend as much time on them. Although you and I did that last year, I think, during the playoffs. And that was really cool, like scouting lessons from the team still in the playoffs. I was thinking about you last night, probably because you were tweeting about it, but with Kayvon Thibodeau and how well that young man played last night. I mean, he was basically the difference for the Giants winning that game or not and being in great position for the playoffs or not.
Yeah, and it's fascinating because without his scoop and score, the Commanders are in position to kick the game-winning field goal and win 15-13. And on the play right before, the infamous penalty onside, illegal formation, he makes the effort to force Heineke to stumble a little bit and ends up making the tackle, knocking him out at the 1-yard line, which also was amazing that he was in the end zone in coverage. So not only was he locking down an option in the passing game, which gave Heineke the green light to go and run, he got back in the play and made the play to stop him at the 1-yard line, which we know now it ends up being, the subsequent penalty on illegal formation and the non-call in the end zone. But the fact that he was disruptive versus the run, he held his own in coverage, he showed effort, he got into the end zone. This is what a top 5 pick supposed to look like. And, the fact that he did all of that wearing, baggy pants. I feel like his pants just don't fit him. Like, it's always looks baggy. But the fact of the matter is, all jokes aside, this is someone that looked the part in college, had a lot of unnecessary questions about surrounding him, but he was productive on the field, and he was super productive last night. They had no answers for Kayvon Thibodeau. And if they get to the playoffs, this this performance is the biggest reason why.
So a couple other things need to be said about that. So the one thing I would say is he's been pretty darn good all year. Like, he hasn't always had the stats, but he's been really disruptive at different times that I feel like people haven't noticed as much. But the other thing I noticed is, like, there's a lot of rookies making plays right now. You almost forget about it, but rookies a lot of times are a lot better towards the end of the year than they are the start of the year. It takes them a while to develop in the NFL game, but like Jahan Dotson, some of the plays he's making, Tyler Algier running the rock for the Falcons, James Houston, that edge rusher for the Lions. I mean, you really do see some guys starting to figure it out, Emory, and really starting to turn it on as the season goes.
Yeah, and I think the biggest reason why, and a lot of fans may not understand this, you look at the end of their college seasons, right? So they end their college seasons probably in December. They go on to the All-Star game circuit. Some guys playing multiple All-Star games. Then you go to the combine in February. So you got December, you played your last game. January, you are in the All-Star game circuit. February, you're doing combines. March, you're doing workouts and pro days and training for the draft and meeting with teams. April, you're still meeting with teams and doing private visits, and you get drafted. Now you are thrust into rookie minicamp, then OTAs and training camp. So your body for a rookie really doesn't get a chance to get rest. So yeah, you may see a lot of rookies struggle, in preseason, earlier in the season. Then they kind of get, worked into the regular season, slowly. So by the time they get, past their bye week, things start to really slow down for them and they kind of understand their role. And they're able to go ahead and just play like we saw them play at the height of their collegiate careers. So it's always good to see them on the back end playing their best ball. So that's why you kind of always have to give these rookies a little bit of grace coming out. And I also will throw this out there. I want your thoughts on this. Talk about football being a redemption type game. I thought Zach Wilson played well yesterday coming off the bench. Yeah, he still had the bonehead, careless interception down the rail. He was trying to loft it over a DB. He didn't even see the DB, just kind of predetermined that decision. But he was part of the reason why they had an opportunity to tie that game. And I thought he played better that game than he has all season, even when they were winning in spite of him. So good for him to really bounce back and have a game. And now, because it's a short week, he's going to earn the second start. And, let's see if he can stack positive games on top of one another and give his team a chance to win to get back into the playoffs.
Definitely thought he played better than he had been. He made some big plays. Still doesn't always look comfortable in the pocket. It's like when they do those play action or boots or get him out of the pocket, he just looks more comfortable than when he's just in the pocket having to deliver throws. But certainly I thought it was a step in the right direction for Zach. There's no question. Let's take a step into the direction of some of these bowl games. We have one today, and it's a big one, Emory. It's the Myrtle Beach Bowl, UConn and Marshall. And Marshall, 12.5-point favorites. Total is 40.5. Let's start with the players, the prospects that we'll be looking at. And we'll start with UConn linebacker Jackson Mitchell, who's kind of been like the face of this turnaround.
Yeah, and he's going to have to play a big part in this ball game because of how well Marshall can run the football. And so he does a solid job out in space. He's able to seek and then run and go make the play. But in this game, you want to see him be a little bit more impactful at the point of attack. And when he's out in coverage, make up his mind and really figure things out quickly and get himself in position to make a play, because he is very athletic. He can definitely do it, but it's something in this ball game. If they're going to win, he's going to have the biggest game of any defender for UConn. And it's great to talk about UConn in the bowl game because what a great job Jim Moore Jr. has done out there in it is technically, the school is located in Storrs, Connecticut, but the stadium is in East Hartford. Great food, by the way. I know you've done a game there before. I do love their cookie spread and also their press box spread. They have donuts too.
Yeah, they have donuts before the game. And they also had, when I was there, I did a bunch of games there, not this year, but the year before. It was Chick-fil-A.
Yeah.
They would have Chick-fil-A all the time, which was pretty awesome. What about for Marshall? Who are you looking at over there?
Stephen Gilmore. I think he's the brother of Stephon Gilmore. He
Yeah.
plays a lot like him, man. Like you see the confidence out there on the perimeter in which he plays. You talk about someone that's not shocked when the ball is in the air. He doesn't panic. He has just as good of a chance to catch it as a receiver. He's confident in his technique. He doesn't get handsy or over aggressive in his approach. He really is a premier type corner. I'm surprised we're not hearing more about him on a national landscape because he plays a really good, solid game, a fundamentally sound game. So we probably won't see him in this game because they won't throw his way, because it would be wise to avoid, his side of the field. So I just like the way he plays. I like guys out there on the perimeter. It harkens back to a time. I was about to tweet this out yesterday, but I don't know if it would have came out how I wanted it to come out. So I'm glad I could say it here. We harken back to a time where guys just made plays. And I wanted, I'm watching the Eagles game. I'm watching, all the different NFL games, right? And you see multiple drops by the receivers. And, I just don't remember a time when I can recall, and I know he had it as a rookie, but I don't recall Jerry Rice, all the top receivers, Chris Carter, Jerry Rice, just dropping passes all throughout the game. Like, I feel like guys, if it went to those premier players, they made plays. Even in the secondary, I don't recall seeing an Eric Allen getting beat or a Darryl Green getting beat or just giving up plays or looking, having pass interference plays. I feel like that's how Gilmore, the brother, and this one plays. They play really good football and just confident football, and it yields itself in how consistent they are out there on the field.
Marshall's laying 12.5 big ones, Emory. Are you laying them as well?
This was 11 for 2 weeks, and it now has jumped a point on game day. So I feel like that's a sucker's bet. However, I think it's more along the lines on the total. The total has stayed at 40 or 40.5 or something like that. I'm going to slide underneath that. I feel confident that Marshall's defense will, keep this offense of UConn at bay. UConn wants to shrink the ball game, which is probably why this total is what it is. So I'd rather take the total 11 points in a chaotic bowl season that we've seen already. And full disclosure, for people that loves to jump in the comments and remind you at the end of the week that you were wrong about something in the beginning of the week. Like, bro, we are previewing bowl games that happen 6 days from now, right? This one just so happens to happen today. But yeah, when we say something here, things could change by the time we get to who knew Jackson State was not going to play 4 key D linemen and linebackers, and therefore at the end of the week, the point spread is what it is. So yeah, keep that in mind. Just take the information and then use it for what it's worth. But we have a lot of experts out there with faceless avatars, and everyone's an expert, hindsight expert. But yeah, I'm taking the under here.
Love it. I'm taking Labatt Blue Light tonight after this game. I can tell you that much right now. Haven't actually had any beers Saturday night, Sunday night. I did have a few Friday night. I'm looking forward to Labatt Blue Light tonight in Green Bay after the game. There's no better way to wind down after calling a Monday Night Football game than with the pristine Canadian goodness of a cold Labatt Blue Light in your hand. Stock up like I do, and I have, and be the MVP of your tailgate. Share Labatt on game day with your crew. Always enjoy responsibly. Beer, Labatt USA, Buffalo, New York. What about the Idaho Potato Bowl, Emory? That game is tomorrow, and I'm very familiar with Eastern Michigan, having called, I think I called 3 of their games this past year, and I know those guys well. San Jose State, I know a little bit, even though I didn't call any of their games. Eastern Michigan is getting 4 points in this game, and I'm actually excited to hear you talk about their running back, since you're a running back connoisseur, Samson Evans.
I like his game, man. He runs behind his pads, so he's always falling forward. He's decisive. He has a good feel for the run game. They lean into him. And I'm talking about their offense. Say, hey, we're going to run. We're going to lean into Evans. You're going to have to stop him. And 9 times out of 10, teams don't have an answer for him. They can't stop. It's kind of like how Tyler Algier runs the football with the Falcons. Just someone that just stays on track, keeps your offense on pace, very productive, and gets better with each and every carry. And it's a big reason why they're in this bowl game, because a lot of times they just run him to victory. And so this is a combination of Eastern Michigan's offense. I'm glad they made a bowl game. I like when teams work hard to get into a bowl game. They wanted to win those few games to get in. And they're excited no matter whether they're playing in, Idaho or, on their own great turf. They just want to be in a bowl game. But Evans is a big part of that. So it's laying out a defensive game plan for San Jose State. If you want to beat Eastern Michigan, you got to stop the run. But Evans makes it so difficult because he's so doggone consistent.
So for San Jose State, they get a D lineman, Viliami Fehoko. I think he was the Mountain West Defensive Player of the Year, right?
He was. He's listed at 6'4", 265. So tells me he's probably about 6'2 and a half, 6'3", about 250. Which makes him a great edge rusher. He's a tweener. He's one of those guys that is going to be a 3-4 outside linebacker, situational hand in the dirt guy. But he closes so quick on the ball. Like the run away, he plays that so well because he's able to close, accelerate, and make the stop. He also has a variety of ways of getting to the quarterback, uses his hands very well, very disruptive force. And so in this game, his run defense, and they're probably going to try to run right at him. If I'm thinking like an offensive coordinator, you try to make their greatest strength a big weakness by running right at the pass rusher. So I'll be excited to see how he handles double teams, how he handles reach blocks and all those things like that. And if he's able to, get off of disengage, get off a block and make a play. But I think he's going, I can't remember which All-Star game he's going to. Could be the Shrine or Senior, but he's someone that definitely is going to play a lot as a pro because of what he can do as an edge rusher.
Let's talk about the spread. San Jose State is laying 4. The total is 54. Which way are you taking this one, Emory?
I'm taking Eastern Michigan plus the points. I feel like it's a situation in bowl. The whole bowl schedule season thing outside of the playoffs has taken on a different animal. You got to figure out who's playing, who's opting out, but more importantly, who wants to be there, who is excited to be there. And I'm not saying that San Jose State isn't excited to be there, but I'm saying Eastern Michigan is more amped to be there. So I think they'll have just a little bit more juice, and I think they'll win outright. Plus, so obviously I've taken a plus the points, but I would also sprinkle some on the money line.
Love it, and I agree with you. I am very impressed by their head coach, Chris Creighton, and what he's done with that program. I mean, they're winners now. They're perennial winners, and that's not an easy place to recruit to. It's not an easy place to turn them into winners, but that's exactly what he's done. How about the Boca Raton Bowl? That sounds nice right about now. It's Liberty and Toledo, Emory. And looking at the spread here, Toledo is laying 4.5. So Toledo from the MAC champs, they're favored. And they got a DN, Jamal Hines. I've called some of his games. He's good.
Yeah, he is really good, man. And it's like it's funny to watch how Toledo just constantly puts out top tier defenders. Samuel Womack, the corner for San Francisco, was phenomenal on tape when I studied him last year. I was like, wow, this dude is really good, can hold his own as an outside corner. And he's actually playing outside, even though he's built like what people would say is a stereotypical slot defender. He's playing on the outside, and he's pretty damn good. But Hines is really good also. A disruptor, quick off the ball, doesn't get fooled, by misdirection. He's able to find the ball and get to it, and he's going to be a factor in this game.
The linebacker that you like for Liberty is Darrell Johnson.
And we spoke about him before. He's long, athletic, one of these traditional weak side backers that can situationally rush if you want him to. He could be a very good blitzer. He gets in the way in these passing windows. And again, his discipline will be put on display today because he has to be disciplined against that Toledo run game. Since they got Daquan Finn back in the lineup, kind of helps out their run game. He's their zone read guy. Not necessarily the best passer, but he's efficient, effective enough to where you have to honor his ability. So Johnson's discipline and how he plays his game says a lot about, his football IQ and football awareness. So that's what I'm more excited to see.
Okay. When you look at the spread and you look at Toledo favored by 4.5, what are you going to do with it?
Toledo's been favored by 4.5 since these spreads came out about these bowl games. So they're pretty consistent that Vegas is about what they think of Toledo. But I think the reason why I'm laying these 4.5 for Toledo is because Liberty kind of just, because their coaching change and how they finished the season, they really took their foot off the gas and, just said whatever. Because at one point in time, Liberty was ranked in the top 20. And so, they were pretty doggone good. And then we started to hear the rumors whether or not the coach was going to leave. They lost that one game. And the next thing you know, they're just like, all right, well, we're out of this. We're taking this. And, so now you look at what we just talked about with Eastern Michigan. Who's more excited about this game? It's going to be Toledo. Toledo will do a great job and continue to push the flag forward for the MAC in the bowl games.
Totally agree with everything you just said. Plus, Toledo's good. I mean, I think they have the best players of any team in the MAC. I'm pretty impressed by them. And you're right about Finn, and you're also right about Liberty. Liberty just sort of after it seemed like they were leaving, and after they blew that game against UConn, Liberty just kind of lost their momentum. Next up, we have the New Orleans Bowl. How do you say the name of that city?
New Orleans. So anytime you hear New Orleans, or it's from someone outside of the city that never been to the city, because no one in New Orleans says New Orleans. Not a soul, bro. Like, I've never heard.
Hold on a second. I want to get that on social media. Say it again.
New Orleans. That's how you pronounce it, New Orleans. And now some people, like, again, the local, you can tell who's from New Orleans and who's not, because the locals say New Orleans. Everyone outside of that says New Orleans, because that's how it's probably pronounced phonetically. But locals say New Orleans. And I don't know where New Orleans came from. And you won't see no damn alligators walking around in tuxedos either with a plate of crawfish. You won't see none of that stuff. And you don't just hear jazz when you get off the plane walking around New Orleans either. So all the stuff you see on these commercials and these cutaways, don't believe it.
That said, I have a bone to pick with you. Did you have an issue with the gumbo that I posted on social media the other night?
Here's the emojis I used was let me put the monocle on and let me analyze it. Let me think about it. And then, no, that's not gumbo, Ross. It wasn't soupy enough. That looked more like stew. There was no room.
Okay, okay, we got to clarify here. Any type of soup or stew, I am not a big broth guy. Or sauce, whatever people want to call it. I just like the sustenance, right?
I got you.
So my buddy George, he's a parent of friends of my daughters at school. His mom came up from New Orleans, and she brought up all the supplies to make gumbo. And if I had actually taken a picture of the actual gumbo as opposed to my bowl, you would have thought it was fantastic. She literally got the andouille sausage in Laplace at where's Laplace?
That's like 5 miles outside of New Orleans. That's like a parish, so it's right there by New Orleans, but it's
outside. Well, that's his favorite sausage. So she got the andouille sausage. It was so good, bro. So she had a spicy pot and a non-spicy pot for the kids. It was so good. Now, George and his mom, they had a lot more broth and then some meat. I didn't know you put the rice down first, then you pour the broth and the meat over. I just wanted the chicken and the sausage. I don't like slurping a whole bunch of the sauce. I just need enough sauce for the taste. I don't need to be like, you know, I don't need that. Just give me the stuff. So anyway,
Did she
that's
have
why you gave
seafood
it
in
the
it too?
thumbs down, but it was delicious.
Did she have seafood in it too? Because I know traditionally, you put
She
meat
went
and
no
seafood.
seafood,
Okay,
and I think perhaps it's because of
allergies.
allergies or she had to bring it up from New Orleans. Like she brought up on the plane, dude.
Right.
You know what I mean?
So
I don't know if she wanted to bring up like seafood or whatever.
unless
She
she unless
brought
she
the sausage on the plane.
okay, because some people like I don't know if the same company makes the crawfish tails that you could throw in there, but yeah, I could see some people up here have more of a shellfish allergy than people down in the south. So I can understand why she just did meat. You ruined the photo, Ross. You supposed to show the broth.
I
That's
know,
why
I know, I
it was
know.
your bowl that ruined it.
Although I will say this, like if you took a picture of what it looked like, it just looks like broth. Like I would have had to take the thing up and go like that, the whatever it's called,
The
so
spoon.
you could see the spoon. Yeah. All right. Anyway, we got the New Orleans Bowl, or as I like to say, the Nolans Bowl, Western Kentucky and South Alabama. Tell me about this Western Kentucky quarterback. They got another one.
Yeah, I could tell you a lot about him, man, because I cover all the different divisions. Saw a lot of him at West Florida, the Argonauts, Division II program. Won a championship there with Coach Shinnick, who now takes the head coaching job. I forget where, but I want to say it's out west or in the MAC somewhere. So he's moved on. But Reed transferred last year, or for this season, to Western Kentucky to fill in for Bailey Zappi. But Reed was phenomenal at West Florida. So he transferred up, so it shows you that his talent translated to the Division I level because he was balling this year. The reason why this is intriguing because prior to the bowl game, right after the season, he jumped in the transfer portal trying to go to a Power 5 school. So I thought he wasn't going to play. Then I want to say within the last week, he announced that he's going back to Western Kentucky to finish what he started. In one of those long, posts or whatnot that people put that you only read to see if they declared or if they, transferring or whatnot. But he said he was coming back to finish what he started. He's going to stay at Western Kentucky. So that affected this line. And it also affects Western Kentucky's chances in this ballgame because Reed is phenomenal. He's a gunslinger, but he's very accurate at the intermediate level of the field. Not afraid to take the one-on-one shot. If he sees it, he's going to throw it. And his command of, let's say, situational football, which helped him at West Florida, has completely helped him with the Hilltoppers and gives him a great chance to win this game.
Who do you like for South Alabama?
Darrell Luter Jr., the corner. South Alabama has been excellent. We've talked all season mostly about Troy, then App State had their run. My Raging Cajuns were undefeated for a while before the wheels fell off. But South Alabama has been the most consistent team in the Sun Belt Conference. They're 10-2, and so this is a really good offense, very good defense. Luter is someone that is going to play on Sundays, consistently on Sundays. I'm pretty sure he's going to end up in the Senior Bowl. It would be silly for them not to grab the local kid right there in Mobile. But I love his ball awareness. Some guys may have ball instincts, but not ball awareness. Ball awareness is the difference is understanding where the ball is going. So it requires you to be able to read things on the fly, kind of understand concepts, get yourself in position to make a play, or just understand where the football is and where your vulnerabilities are. And he pressures the ball rather well. He makes plays on the ball. So I just like his ability, and he's going to get tested a lot in this game because Reed doesn't care if that's, Darrell Luter Jr. or Darrell Green out there. He is throwing at him. He doesn't matter. He doesn't care how good of a corner you are. If you got the one-on-one opportunity, you're going to get targeted. So this is a great matchup here.
All right, let's talk turkey. Western Kentucky's getting 4.5. South Alabama laying 4.5. What are you doing?
What's the total?
Total's 55.5.
Going over that number. I think this will be a high scoring game because, again, South Alabama is good on both sides of the ball, but Western Kentucky and their offense and how they go about things is going to be points scored in this bowl game. Indoors, ideal conditions for both teams, field turf, no weather. Take the over.
That'll do it. Love it, Emory. That'll do it for this week's College Draft Podcast. Next week, we've got the big bowls to get into, and lots of them. Should be absolutely awesome. Follow him at FBall Game Plan. Follow me at Ross Tucker NFL, and certainly Get signed up for the draft guide now. Can't wait till I get mine. Footballgameplan.com/2023 draft guide. The keg is kicked. We are all tapped out.
Thanks for listening to the College Draft Podcast. Make sure to also subscribe to the Ross Tucker Football Podcast, Fantasy Feast, Even Money, and The Business of Sports. All available at Apple Podcasts, rosstucker.com, or wherever podcasts can be found.